All right, welcome to the first lecture of our next unit, the theory of evolution by what's called natural selection. So there's two words you absolutely need to know for this unit on evolution, the theory of evolution. It's natural selection. All right, so like any of my video lectures, if you're watching, paying attention, and taking notes, you're going to learn something. If you're just letting it play in the background and Googling the answers or guessing, you're going to learn nothing. So you're basically wasting your time. All right, so take some good notes, and I hope you understand this. All right, so what is evolution? One definition is the process by which different kinds of living organisms develop and change over time, usually due to changes in their environment. So right here you can see whales. Whales are mammals. They're much more closely related to us than they are fish and sharks. So millions of years ago, about 30 million years ago, whales lived on land. They were little mammals, kind of like little rodent-like creatures, and they lived on land. They had legs. But due to some sort of change in their environment, either they're trying to evade predators or they're trying to find food, they started spending more and more time in the water. So they're kind of like alligators or crocodiles that spend part of their time in the water and then part of their time out of the water. Eventually, as they spent more and more time in the water, their body over thousands and thousands and millions of years, it began to change. They began to become more well adapted to living in the water. And you could see it's like this guy, he's streamlined, but he still has legs. Eventually, modern whales evolved from their original ancestor that lived on land, and now you can see whales no longer have legs. They do still have leg bones, however. That's evidence that they once had legs. Another definition of evolution, it's a change in the frequency of alleles in the gene pool of a population over time. So, for example, here's a population of frogs. The definition of a population is all the members of one species in an area. So, if we're just talking about this species of frogs, that would be a population of frogs. So, you can see that there's red frogs, there's purple frogs, there's green frogs. Well, why are they red, purple, and green? It's because of their alleles that they have. So, these are all the alleles in the gene pool for this population of frogs. There are green skin alleles, there's purple skinned alleles, and then there's red skinned alleles in the gene pool of these frogs. Well, if evolution is occurring, the frequency or percentage of those alleles in the gene pool will change. So maybe these frogs are living in the forest and they're hard to see if they're green. So predators won't be able to eat them if they're green because they can't see them. They're camouflaged. So the population of the green alleles, the frequency of the green alleles in the gene pool will go up. More and more frogs will start to appear green. So that's basically what evolution is, and we're going to explain more about it in the slides that are coming. All right, some key terms for your notes. Definitely want to write these down. The first one is alleles. We should know this by now. These are the different versions or forms of a gene. For example, there are alleles for eye color. There's blue-eyed alleles, there's brown-eyed alleles. For these frogs, obviously there's green skin alleles, there's red skin alleles, there's purple skin alleles. All right, the other one, we just went over this last slide, the gene pool. That's the total collection or all the alleles in a population. So for this population of frogs, remember a population is all the members of one species in an area. That area could be as big as you want. It could be your backyard. It could be the state of California. It could be the whole United States, or it could be the entire planet. However big you want that area to be, doesn't matter. But it's got to be one species that makes up a population. So the gene pool for these frogs over here is right here. Here are all the alleles in this population of frogs. There's green skinned alleles, purple skinned alleles, and red skinned alleles. Species. This is a group of organisms that are capable of interbreeding and produce fertile offspring. Basically, they're able to have babies. So, for example, these giraffes here, this giraffe, this guy, and this guy, they're all members of the same species because two giraffes can come together and have a baby giraffe, and that baby giraffe can also go ahead and have baby giraffes of its own. But these gazelle right here, they're not the same species as a giraffe. So gazelles and giraffes cannot mate and have babies. Same with the elephants, same with the zebras. So zebras, that's a species. Elephants, that's a different species. And gazelles and giraffes, those are also different species. Now, this one you can probably figure out what this is. Speciation. That's the process of one species branching off to form two species, or the process by which new species are formed due to reproductive isolation. The one species gets separated from each other by who knows, or genetic differences. All right, so here's like an example of speciation. You got a population of beetles. You can see they're kind of brown, dark brown, light brown. Oh, they get separated by a river. This little blue line right here, that's a river that comes and it separates this population of beetles. I guess we're assuming these beetles can't fly over the river. So now they're separated from one another over many years, generations, maybe hundreds of years. Since they've been separated, this group of beetles and this group of beetles, you can see these are becoming more green. Maybe there's more grass on that side of the river, and these are becoming more brown. And after several generations, they may eventually turn into two separate species of beetles. You got the green species over here and the tan species over here. But they started as one species. But after they've been separated or isolated from each other for a long time, the two group of beetles can become separate species. All right, one more page of key terms. I think it's just one more page. Maybe there's more coming. Anyways, people that are taking notes and getting this in their notebook, you guys are the ones that are going to get 100% on this. Those of you that aren't probably are going to have really struggle with the questions. All right, so we've done this one already. Population, that's all the members of one species in an area. That area can be as big as you want. You know, what are the population of squirrels in your backyard? Or maybe it's what's the population of squirrels in Tulare? Or how many squirrels are there in California or the United States or the entire planet? So the area is up to you, but it's the members of one species. So for example, Sacramento, California, it says population is or was, I don't know if this is still accurate, 466,488. But that's just people. That's Homo sapiens. That's humans. That does not include cats and dogs and squirrels and trees and monkeys or whatever. So Sacramento's population is 466,488 people. But if you're looking for the population of dogs, that would be a different number. So all the members of one species in an area, that's a population. Variation, variety. It's the differences within and between populations of organisms. So this one uses, different fur colors in mice. But over here, look at these little ladybugs. They have variety. They have variation. Some are yellow, some are orange, some are red. So not all the ladybugs are exactly the same. They do have slight differences. They do have variation. Now, some of these colors, is it an advantage to be yellow? Is it an advantage to be red? Or is it an advantage to be orange? Don't know. I don't really know if there's an advantage to be a certain color of butterfly or of ladybug. All right, adaptation. You're going to need to know this one for sure. It's any trait or behavior or feature that increases an organism's chances of survival and thus gives it a better chance to reproduce, which means have babies. So some adaptations. This polar bear right here, he's adapted. He's well adapted to live at the North Pole. He's got white fur, makes him harder to see. He's got very thick fur, keeps him warm. He's got very big paws, helps him walk in the snow, and also helps him be a good swimmer. This giraffe right here, classic. His adaptation is an extremely long neck, which allows him to reach up into trees and get leaves that other animals cannot get. All right, so those are adaptations. Anything that gives an organism a better chance to survive. And the last key term, you'll need to know this one, fitness. That's it's a measure of an organism's ability to survive and reproduce and pass its on genes to the next generation. All right, doing the polar bear again. This guy's fitness in the Arctic Circle up by the North Pole is very high. He's very well adapted. So that polar bears have a very good chance to survive and reproduce. If I put that same polar bear in the desert in California, now his fitness would be extremely low because he does not need his white fur. He doesn't need those giant paws. He doesn't need a thick coat to keep warm in the desert. So it's a measure of how well adapted an organism is to its environment. So if it has high fitness, that means there's a good chance it's going to survive and have babies and pass its traits to the next generation. If it has low fitness, it's a very low chance that it's going to survive. It's probably not going to reproduce, and whatever traits it has are not going to get passed to the next generation. So that's fitness. All right, so now for Darwin's 4 principles of his theory of evolution by natural selection. So these are things that Darwin noticed. All right, so the first thing he noticed was their variation in a population. Remember, a population is all the members of one species in an area. So the population of Tulare is about 60,000, but that's just people, 60,000 people. If you wanted to see the population of squirrels in Tulare, that would be a different number. So all the members of one species. So over here we have a population of frogs. And there's variation. You can see some of them are green, some of them are red, and some of them are purple. Some are going to be a little bigger, some are going to be a little smaller, some are going to be able to jump higher, some be jump not as high. All right, so in a population, there's always variety, there's variation. Not all individuals are exactly the same. Number two, inheritance. That means these traits, these variations are heritable. They're able to be passed down to your offspring. So if you're a green frog and you stay alive because you're green, because maybe predators can't see you in the plants because you blend in, you're camouflaged, you're able to pass down your greenness, your green color to your baby frogs. So you can see over in this picture, so this guy right here and this lady, they had a baby. All right, so their kid looks like he or she, I can't really tell, got the skin color of dad, got the nose of dad, got freckles from mom. So all these traits, they're heritable. They're able to be passed down from parents to offspring. Number three, struggle for existence. So way more offspring in the wild are born than can survive. So for example, when a sea turtle comes onto the beach and she lays her eggs, she'll lay like 1,000 eggs. Out of the 1,000, how many will survive to become an adult sea turtle? The answer is about one or two. 999 or 998 will die. Why? Either they get picked off by predators, maybe they can't find food to eat, maybe they don't make it to the ocean. Who knows? So the vast majority of things in the wild, they do not survive in order to reach an adult because it's a struggle to survive in the wild, to find food, and to avoid becoming somebody else's food. And last but not least, Darwin had his survival of the fittest. So these are individuals with traits that give you a better chance to survive, that will give you a better chance to reproduce, to pass your traits down to the next generation. So in this picture over here, you see this lion, he's hunting zebras. All right, so if you're a fast zebra, you're able to get away from the lion. This guy's not quite as fast, but he's running. This guy's not even running. That is not that's not a very high fitness. Not running away from a lion, that's not an adaptation. This zebra right here, he's not going to survive to pass this trait of not running from lions to the next generation of zebras. All right, so those are Darwin's 4 principles of evolution by natural selection. All right, so now example of Darwin's principles of evolution by natural selection. Remember, the first thing you notice is variation in a population. Remember, a population is all the members of one species in an area. In this case, we're talking about rabbits. So we're not talking about coyotes or wolves. We're talking about a population of rabbits. And there's variation. So sometimes they have brown fur, sometimes they have white fur. Remember, inheritance. These traits are passed down from parents to offspring. So this brown rabbit probably had his parents were probably brown. This little white rabbit, his parents were probably white because you're able to pass on your traits to the next generation. Remember, in the wild, it's a struggle to survive. So most rabbits are not going to survive to become adults and have baby rabbits themselves because a lot of them are going to get eaten by predators, or maybe they die of starvation because there's not enough food for everybody. And the last one is survival of the fittest. So maybe this rabbit right here with the white fur, since they're living in a snowy environment, it's going to be harder to see him. So this white fur is going to be an advantage. The white fur is an adaptation that's going to increase that rabbit's fitness because it's going to give it a better chance to survive and reproduce. This brown guy, the brown fur is not an adaptation because it does not give you an advantage because it's easier to see you. Predators like coyotes, wolves, eagles, easier to see this guy. So over time, since white fur is an adaptation, it's an advantage, white fur rabbits are going to become more common and brown fur rabbits are going to become less common. That's all evolution is. All right, we got 2 more slides. I'm going to try to wrap it up. All right, before I go over natural selection, there's this thing called artificial selection. This is what is done by us humans. This is where humans selectively breed organisms to get desired traits. So if you own a dog, the ancestor of all domesticated dogs is this guy right here, the gray wolf. So through selective breeding, we've gotten all the different breeds of dogs, like this collie here with his very long hair, this dachshund that's really low to the ground, and he's long, but he's low to the ground. The bulldog that's kind of like unathletic. How did we get these breeds of dogs from a wolf? Well, hey, if you want a dog like a collie that has really long hair, find two dogs with really long hair, have puppies, and they're probably going to have even longer hair. So through selective breeding, we converted the wolf into the dogs that are our pets. We also do it with plants. So here, right here, is a wild strawberry where the fruit is like the size of your fingernail. It's really tiny. But through selective breeding, you find a strawberry plant that had you find some that have slightly bigger fruit, and you cross pollinate them, use pollen to cross pollinate them. And eventually, over many generations, the strawberries would get bigger and bigger until today they're gigantic that we buy at the supermarket. So this is artificial selection, also known as selective breeding. All right, last slide. And I already spotted I made a mistake. This is not artificial selection. This is natural selection. I forgot to change that. All right, so remember, artificial selection is when humans purposely breed or crossbreed organisms in order to get desired traits, maybe fruit that's bigger, maybe race horses that run faster, maybe dogs that are smaller or bigger, whatever. So that's done by humans, but this is natural selection. This is done by nature. So that's a process where organisms with favorable traits, remember those are called adaptations, they're more likely to survive, so they're more likely to reproduce, and they're more likely to pass on their traits to the next generation. So a classic example is the peppered moths. So you can see they come in two varieties. They come in a dark variety and a light variety. Well, during the Industrial Revolution, there was a lot of pollution, a lot of smog, a lot of smoke. So in the cities, the trees, their bark became dark, really dark from all the pollution. So in that case, it was an adaptation or advantage to be dark colored because the birds couldn't see you. So in the cities, dark colored moths were very common, where the light colored moths were very rare to see because birds could see them easily against the trees that have dark color. So that's one example. Another one is antibiotic resistance. So if you ever took antibiotics when you're sick, you always got to take them for like a week to 10 days. And they say, don't stop them, take them all. Don't stop just because you're feeling good. The reason for that is some bacteria are naturally resistant to antibiotics. Antibiotics is what antibiotics kills bacteria, but some, like these two red ones here, they're naturally resistant. So you start taking antibiotics, you're sick, and immediately it kills most of the bacteria, but it doesn't kill them all. So if you don't take all the antibiotics, now these bacteria, if you don't kill them all, now they're going to start reproducing again. And now more of them are going to have that trait of being resistant to antibiotic, and then the antibiotics won't work. All right, so that's natural selection, the process where organisms with favorable traits are more likely to survive and reproduce, and then those traits will become more common in the population. All right, I hope you understood it. If not, we got more activities to learn it, and I'll talk to you next time.